January 8th, 1989. A brand new Boeing 737 climbs through the winter sky over England, with 126 people on board. Suddenly, the cabin fills with smoke. The engines are tearing themselves apart. The pilots have maybe 2 minutes to figure out what's going wrong before everyone dies. They make a decision. They shut down an engine. The smoke clears. Crisis averted. Except they shut down the wrong engine. The working one. And now they're flying toward one of Britain's busiest highways on a single, failing engine that's about to give up completely. How does a professional flight crew shut down the wrong engine? How do you make that mistake? Keep watching and find out. The M1 motorway in January. Gray skies, cold wind, and a river of cars heading north toward the East Midlands. It's a Sunday evening. People heading home after the weekend. No one's looking up. Why would they? But if they had, they might have seen something terrifying. A massive passenger jet, way too low, engines screaming, heading straight for the ground. Let's rewind to earlier that night and see how we got here. British Midland Flight 92 pushes back from London Heathrow at 7:52 p.m. The destination? Belfast, Northern Ireland. It's a short hop, barely an hour in the air. The aircraft is a Boeing 737-400, the newest, shiniest version of Boeing's workhorse jet. This particular plane is only 4 months old. Still has that new plane smell. Registration GOBME. It's so new that many of the pilots at British Midland are still getting used to it. In the cockpit, Captain Kevin Hunt, 43 years old. He's got over 13,000 flight hours under his belt. He's experienced, respected. The kind of guy you'd want flying your plane. Next to him, First Officer David McClelland. Less experienced but competent. Together they've flown this route before. It should be routine. Spoiler alert, it's not. Flight 92 levels off at 28,300 feet. Cruise altitude. The passengers settle in. Some read. Some sleep. Some stare out the window at the darkness below. The flight attendants start the beverage service. Everything's normal, for about 3 minutes. Then the plane starts shaking. It's not turbulence, it's something else. Something mechanical. Something wrong. The pilots feel it immediately. A vibration. A judder through the airframe. Then comes the smell. Smoke. Acrid. Burning smoke filling the cabin. Passengers start coughing. Some panic. The flight attendants try to stay calm, but they're worried too. In the cockpit, warning lights flash. Engine number 1. The autopilot disconnects. Smoke-filled aircraft at 28,000 feet. Captain Hunt takes control. First Officer McClelland runs the checklists. They're trained for this. Engine fires are serious, but they're not automatically fatal. You shut down the engine. You deploy the fire suppression. You divert to the nearest airport. Simple, except nothing about this flight is going to be simple. Here's where things get interesting. And by interesting I mean catastrophic. The fire warning says the left engine is the problem. Engine number 1. But Captain Hunt isn't entirely convinced. He's feeling the vibration. He's seeing the instruments. And something doesn't add up. The Boeing 737-400 is new. It's got fancy new engines. CFM56 engines. More powerful, more fuel efficient, but also louder. And they vibrate differently than the older engines. The pilots aren't used to them yet. Hunt looks at the engine instruments. He's looking for confirmation. Which engine is actually failing, the left or the right? And here's the thing. The engine instruments on the 737-400 are in a slightly different place than on the older 737S. The primary engine display shows both engines at the top of the instrument panel. But Captain Hunt is used to the older layout. And in the stress of the moment, with smoke in the cabin and alarms blaring, he makes a judgment call. He decides the right engine is the problem. Engine number 2. Not the left. He tells McClelland to shut down the right engine. McClelland hesitates. The fire warning is for the left engine. But Hunt is the captain. He's got 13,000 hours. So he reaches up and pulls the throttle for the right engine back to idle. Then he shuts it down completely, and the vibration stops. The smoke clears. The passengers stop panicking. The flight attendants breathe a sigh of relief. Everything seems fine. Better than fine. Problem solved. Except they've just shut down the only engine that was working properly. The left engine, the one that's actually failing, is still running, still vibrating, still tearing itself apart. But with the right engine shut down, the vibration from the left engine is now the only vibration. And it feels smoother in comparison. The pilots think they've fixed the problem. They haven't. They've made it infinitely worse. Captain Hunt announces over the PA system that they've had a problem with the right engine, but everything's under control. They're diverting to East Midlands Airport, just a few minutes away. The passengers relax. Some even applaud. British people, right? Always polite, even when their plane's falling apart. But here's the kicker. Several passengers can see the left engine from their window seats. And they can see it's on fire. Literally, flames and sparks shooting out the back. They tell the flight attendants. The flight attendants are confused. The captain said it was the right engine, but passengers are insistent. One passenger even writes a note and sends it forward. The left engine is on fire, but the note never makes it to the cockpit. The crew is too busy preparing for the emergency landing. Communication breaks down at the exact moment it's most critical. Flight 92 begins its descent toward East Midlands Airport. Air traffic control clears them for an emergency approach. Runway 27. The airport is about 13 miles away. The pilots configure the aircraft for landing. Flaps down. Gear down. One engine providing all the power. It should be enough. A 737 can fly on one engine. It's designed for it. But only if that one engine is actually working. At 8:24 p.m., the aircraft is at 2,400 feet, less than half a mile high. They're over the M1 motorway now. The highway is directly below them. Captain Hunt can see the runway ahead. They're going to make it, probably. The left engine has been chugging along for the last 15 minutes. It's loud. It's rough. But it's working. Sort of. The pilots don't realize they're flying on borrowed time. And time's about to run out. Then, at 900 feet, the left engine decides it's had enough. The fan blades inside the engine have been cracking and breaking for the last 20 minutes. Now they let go completely. The engine doesn't explode. It doesn't catch fire. It just quits. Total failure. The needles on the engine instruments swing to zero. The aircraft is now a 70-ton glider with 126 people on board, and less than a minute before impact. Captain Hunt's brain makes the connection instantly. But there's no time to restart the right engine. Jet engines don't restart like a car. It takes 30 to 45 seconds. They've got maybe 20 seconds before they hit the ground. The only option now is to try to glide to the runway. It's less than a mile away. They're so close. But the aircraft is sinking fast. Without engine power, they're losing altitude at 1,000 feet per minute. Hunt pushes the nose down to maintain airspeed. If they go too slow, they'll stall and drop like a rock. But pushing the nose down means losing altitude even faster. It's a lose-lose situation. The runway is ahead, but it's not close enough. They're not going to make it. The pilots can see the M1 motorway below them. Cars, trucks, families driving home. If they crash into the highway, it'll be a massacre. Hunt aims for the embankment next to the highway. It's the only clear space. A grassy slope. It's not ideal, but it's better than the alternative. The aircraft is dropping. 500 feet. 400 feet. 300 feet. The ground is rushing up. There's no time left. Hunt pulls back on the yoke, trying to slow the descent, trying to cushion the impact. It's not enough. At 8:25 p.m., British Midland Flight 92 slams into the embankment at the edge of the M1 motorway. The impact is catastrophic. The nose hits first. The cockpit crumples like a tin can. The fuselage breaks apart. The tail section separates. The wings shear off. Fuel spills everywhere. Miraculously, there's no fire, but the destruction is total. Passengers are thrown forward. Seats rip from their moorings. Overhead bins explode open. Luggage and debris fly through the cabin. The sound is indescribable. Metal tearing. People screaming. Then silence. Drivers slam on their brakes. They can't believe what they're seeing. A passenger jet. Crashed. Right next to the highway. Some people pull over. Run toward the wreckage. Trying to help. Emergency services are called immediately. but it takes time for them to arrive. In the meantime, ordinary people, civilians, become first responders. They climb into the wreckage, pull survivors out, comfort the injured. It's chaos, but it's also humanity at its best. Inside the aircraft, Captain Hunt is trapped in the cockpit. He's critically injured, barely conscious. First Officer McClelland is in better shape, but he's injured too. In the cabin, passengers are everywhere. Some are dead, some are unconscious, some are awake and screaming. The aircraft broke apart along the cabin. The front section took the worst of it. Most of the fatalities are in rows 1 through 15. The back of the plane is in better shape. Many passengers back there survived with minor injuries. It's the cruel lottery of plane crashes. A few feet forward or backward determines if you live or die. Fire crews arrive. Ambulances, police, they work through the night, cutting people free, treating injuries, loading survivors into ambulances. The final count is grim. 47 people dead, 79 injured, many of them, seriously, multiple amputations. It's one of the worst aviation disasters in British history. But it could have been worse. Much worse. If the plane had hit the motorway, the death toll would have been catastrophic. If the fuel had ignited, everyone would have died. The fact that 79 people survived is almost miraculous. The embankment absorbed some of the impact. The lack of fire gave rescuers time to work. And the structural integrity of the 737 even breaking apart protected some passengers. Boeing doesn't advertise it this way, but their planes are built to be survivable in crashes. This crash proved it. Now comes the investigation. The AAIB arrives at the scene. Their job is to figure out what happened. And more importantly, why. The wreckage tells part of the story. The left engine is shredded, internal damage, fan blade failure. The right engine, perfectly fine, shut down but undamaged. The black boxes tell the rest. The cockpit voice recorder captures the entire flight. The conversations, the decisions, the final moments. It's haunting. The investigators discover the sequence of events. The left engine suffered an uncontained fan blade failure. A blade broke off. It damaged other blades. Smoke entered the cabin through the air conditioning system, which draws air from the engines. The fire warning activated. Standard stuff so far. It's what came next. That's baffling. The pilots shut down the wrong engine. But why? The AAIB digs deeper. They interview the pilots. They review the training procedures. They examine the cockpit layout. And a picture emerges. It's not a simple mistake. It's a cascade of small factors that combined into disaster. Let's break it down. Factor 1. The Boeing 737-400 was new. The pilots weren't fully familiar with it. The engine instruments were in a different position. The engines sounded different, vibrated different. In a high-stress situation, unfamiliarity breeds mistakes. Factor 2. The fire warning indicated the left engine. But Captain Hunt was convinced it was the right engine. Why? Possibly because the vibration felt like it was coming from the right side. Vibrations can be deceiving in an aircraft. They travel through the structure. What feels like it's coming from one side might actually be coming from the other. Factor 3. When they shut down the right engine, the vibration appeared to stop. This reinforced their belief they'd shut down the correct engine. Confirmation bias. They made a decision, saw it apparently work, and didn't question it further. Factor 4. The engine instruments showed both engines. But in the stress and smoke and chaos, Captain Hunt may have misread them, or focused on the wrong indicators. It's easy to criticize from the ground, but in the moment, with alarms blaring and passengers panicking, the human brain doesn't always process information correctly. Factor 5. The passengers saw the left engine on fire. They told the flight attendants, but that information never reached the cockpit. They might have realized their mistake in time to correct it. Factor 6. Once they shut down the right engine, they had no reason to suspect they'd made a mistake until the left engine failed completely. By then, it was too late. They were less than a minute from the ground. No time to restart. No time to recover. The AAIB concludes that the accident was caused by the crew shutting down the wrong engine. But they also acknowledge the contributing factors. Inadequate training on the new aircraft. Communication failures. It's not all on the pilots. The system failed them too. Captain Hunt and First Officer McLean both survived the crash. But their careers are over. Hunt suffers serious injuries, spinal damage. He'll never fly again. McLean is less injured physically, but the psychological toll is immense. They both carry the weight of 47 deaths. The guilt, the what-ifs. Hunt later admits he made a mistake. He takes responsibility, but he also points out the factors that contributed. The newness of the aircraft. The confusing instruments. The lack of communication from the cabin. It doesn't excuse the error, but it explains it. Boeing makes changes. The 737 cockpit layout is reviewed. Engine instruments are made clearer. Training programs are updated. Pilots are taught to cross-check multiple sources before shutting down an engine. Don't just trust one indicator. Verify. Confirm. Double-check. It seems obvious now. But before Flight 92, it wasn't standard procedure. Flight attendants are now trained to immediately inform the cockpit if passengers report seeing fire or damage to an engine. That communication gap. Fixed. It should never happen again. Should. The passengers and families file lawsuits. British Midland faces massive liability. The airline eventually pays millions in compensation, but no amount of money brings back the dead. No settlement erases the trauma. The survivors carry scars, physical and mental, for the rest of their lives. Some never fly again. Some have PTSD. Some become advocates for aviation safety, turning tragedy into purpose. The wreckage of GOBME is removed from the crash site, transported to a hangar, studied, photographed, documented. Then it's scrapped, cut up and recycled. The embankment is repaired. The motorway reopens. Life goes on, but there's a memorial now, at the crash site. A stone monument, listing the names of the 47 people who died. So what's the lesson here? What do we take away from British Midland Flight 92? It's easy to say the pilots screwed up, and they did. But it's more complicated than that. This crash is a perfect example of what aviation experts call the Swiss cheese model of accident causation. Imagine multiple slices of Swiss cheese stacked up. Each slice has holes. Each hole is a failure or weakness in the system. Normally the holes don't line up. One layer catches what another misses. But sometimes, rarely, all the holes align, and disaster slips through. Flight 92 had a mechanical failure. That's hole 1. The pilots misidentified the failed engine. Hole 2. The instruments were confusing. Hole 3. Training was inadequate. Hole 4. Communication broke down. Hole 5. All the holes lined up. 47 people died. Aviation is safer today because of crashes like this. Every accident teaches us something. Every investigation leads to changes. New procedures, better training, improved technology. Flight 92 led to clearer cockpit instruments, better communication protocols, more rigorous training on new aircraft types. Those changes have saved lives. Not that it makes the crash any less tragic, but it means those 47 people didn't die for nothing. British Midland Flight 92 is a story about how quickly things can go wrong, about how small mistakes compound into catastrophe, about how even experienced professionals can make fatal errors under pressure. But it's also a story about survival, about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, about learning from tragedy, about making sure it never happens again. And mostly, it's a reminder that when you're flying at 28,000 feet, there's no room for error. Get it wrong and people die. Get it right, and everyone goes home. The difference is measured in seconds and decisions. And sometimes, despite everything, you shut down the wrong engine.